Hey guys, welcome back to our place for a quick little budget video update. I'm going to go back through and have a look at our spending from the month of March and get sorted for our April budget. So if you're interested to see how much it is costing us to travel around Australia full time in our caravan, remembering we are trying to do it on a budget and do it as reasonably frugally as we possibly can, then stick around, maybe even considering hitting that little subscribe button if you would like to stay up to date with all the things that are happening at our place, and check out how much we spent in March in South Australia, pretty much hanging around Adelaide and the York Peninsula. All right, let's jump in and have a look at our budget for March. Yes, March, we're looking at the right month. This is the month that is just gone. So it is now the beginning of April. I've gone back and had a look at our expenses for March to see how we went. Now, I will just quickly say, if you guys haven't seen one of our budget videos before, we like to run a month ahead budget, which means at the beginning of each month, I sit down and we work out how much we want to spend in each of our spending allocations. We allocate the amount that we want to spend, and then that's what we have to live off for the month. Now, that's what works really well for us. Doesn't work for everybody, but this is what works well for us, and these are our spending allocations that we currently have. The other thing I would say is it's good just to check in with where your money's going. And it's okay for some of your spending allocations to change, which is what's happened this month. And I will talk to you guys about that when we get to it. So basically, the way this works is we have two basically different types of accounts. Some of these allocations go into sinking funds, so that we have a pool of money available to spend out of for certain categories. For example, car maintenance. Now, this covers everything from servicing, registration, insurance, anything that has to do with our vehicles. We have a car and a caravan, and all of that maintenance stuff comes out of this one account. So each month I put $350 into that account, and then when we need to do something relating to either of our vehicles, the expenses come out of that account. So that generally runs a little bit of a surplus, and that's the idea, so that when those big expenses come up, like insurance, then we have a pool of money ready to go to pay for those expenses. Some of our other categories also roll over. So for example, fuel. If we don't use all of our fuel allocation for 1 month, we will hold on to any leftover money and keep that for fuel for upcoming months. Same with accommodation. So there are times where we can save a little bit in those categories, and we can put that money aside for times when we're either going to be in areas where those expenses are higher. So for example, with fuel would be in the outback, where you're going to pay a little bit more per litre for your fuel, or in other times where we can't free camp as much, we need to stay in paid accommodation, we have a surplus in our accommodation account for those times. Other accounts, or I should say other allocations, say for example, family fun and eating out. Sometimes we may use those for other things. So for example, if we didn't use all of our eating out, but we wanted to have a little bit more fun, we might take some money from that and swap it over into another one. But that really sort of only happens with a few of our discretionary spending allocations. Things like activities, family fun, eating out, they can move around a little bit, and it's not so much. But the rest of them, we do try to keep them for what they are intended for. So let's have a look, see how we did. Our grocery allocation for March was $700, and we did spend slightly more than that. We came in at $708.75. So we went over. It is what it is, and sometimes it happens. I would have had some shrapnel left over, and that's where the extra $8 came from. But basically, we were supposed to do a bit of a pantry challenge, use it up challenge, and we didn't do quite as well as what we thought we were going to do, but that's life. Our fuel allocation was $750. We only spent $505 out of that. So we do have some leftover, some surplus in our fuel account. This is a separate a card that I have just for fuel. And the fuel money goes in there and only fuel expenses come out of that. So that's good heading into the outback over the next couple of months. And we are starting to put some money aside in our fuel account, which is excellent. I should also point out that our total Ks for this month were under 2,000 Ks. So we did some fairly short traveling distances in between our camps, and we reined in our fuel allocation a little bit to save for future months, which is awesome. Accommodation, what we like to do here, this is basically campsite fees. So we break our campsites into 3 different types. There are paid accommodation, that would be caravan parks, national parks, those things you need to book and pay for. Donation camps, where it does cost you to stay there. It's your choice whether or not you want to stay, and it's sometimes your choice as to how much you want to donate. And free camping, that doesn't cost you anything. These are free camps. So we were around Adelaide, Barossa, down into the York Peninsula. There wasn't a lot of actual free camping that was available to us, so most of the camps that we stayed at were donation camps, and most of them were actually fairly cheap. The going rate was about $5 a night, which was fantastic. We had a couple that were a bit more expensive than that. In the end, we ended up spending $162 for camping during March out of our $400 allocation, and that means whatever's left goes into our accommodation sinking fund, which allows us to pay for, like I said, caravan parks and things like that coming up. Now we are going to go up through the middle, and we are going to do a lot more paid camps than what we are now. So this is good to start getting a little bit extra into this account. The other thing that we did do this month, which has come out of this $400, is we have booked accommodation in Flinders Ranges for April. So the 162 was our free camping and donation camps, for this month, but we also paid $92 towards next month's accommodation costs, which is why having this as a sinking fund works so well. So we've been doing this for a few months now. Most of the time our monthly costs come in around $100, $150, which means we're putting somewhere between $200 and $300 aside each month for future accommodation costs. So this system's working really well. Our utilities account is going to change. So initially this was just for our gas bottles, and it was only costing us about $30 every 6 to 8 weeks to refill our gas in our caravan. But what we've decided to do is actually also include in here fuel for our diesel heater and for our generator. Now originally these two were coming out of our fuel account, but we did decide that that's more of a utility rather than an actual fuel. It was sort of throwing out our Ks, the cost of our kilometers that we were traveling, because it was including the fuel for our diesel heater and our generator. So we're going to change this to our utilities sinking fund, and we're going to start putting about $80 a month aside instead of the $15. So this is going to cover our gas, our diesel for our diesel heater, and the petrol for our generator. Oh, and this month we had to fill up all of those, which is why it's 84. So this one was a little bit over as well. Our phones, we allocate $120 a month. These are direct debited, set and forget. I don't have to worry about it. This month was a little bit higher because we reactivated our sat phone, and there was just there was $7 more involved in that just to get that up and running again. But moving forward, that'll be $120 a month, and that'll be set and forget, and it's perfect. We also put $50 aside into our medical sinking fund. We didn't have any medical expenses this month, so that just stays there. Gifts and special occasions, we put $50 aside, and I did have to pinch it. You'll see down further. So that's back to zero. Probably not the best approach, but anyways, there is a method to my madness. And we'll let the truck go past. That is a big road train. All right, so clothing is another sinking fund, and this is pretty much how this works. We put $50 aside, and then when we need clothing, we have money available to go and do this. So we were up to about $150, and we went and got some clothes, and Charlotte got some new hiking boots. So we pretty much spent all of that. That's back to zero, but that's fine. That's how it works. So next month we'll go ahead and put another $50 in there and start building that back up again. Laundromat, I normally put $15 aside. Laundromat is one of those things where sometimes we don't use it very often, and then other times we do. We did a lot of donation camps where we didn't have access to water. So we only had the water that we had on hand in our van. We had to go and fill up. So we weren't going to run the washing machine that is in our caravan, which meant we were off to the laundromat. So this little sinking fund pretty much got drained, and I did pinch a couple of dollars from some other places. We spent $43 at the laundromat this month just to wash our clothes. So it is one of those things. Yes, we do have a washing machine on board in the caravan. It's great, but it is quite small, and you do have to have access to water and power to run it. But water is the big thing. If we're working off the water tanks in our van, we can quickly run through all of that water and not have any left. So it really comes down to access to refilling the tanks as to whether or not we use this or we go to the laundromat. All right, family fun. Allocated $100, we spent $71. This includes things like day passes into the national park. We did the Moonta train ride, which was fantastic. Those sorts of bits and pieces that you decide to do while you're out and about and exploring, that comes under family fun. Eating out was just under $50, and that obviously covers the sorts of things that you expect it to. Alcohol, we allocated $100, and we went to the Barossa, and this is pretty much where it all went off the rails. We ended up spending $354 on alcohol this month. It is a lot. We have a couple of bottles of wine that we are taking with us, so we didn't drink all of it as we went, but we also had a great time. We went to some microbreweries and some different places. We tried some different wines and we had a great time. Oh, we also went to Langhorne Creek wine region as well. So yes, went in wine land. Went in. Anyways, yes, that's what happened. So moving forward, that'll be reined in a little bit because we really don't need to spend $350 a month on alcohol. That is very unusual for us. Anyways, activities, $100. I'm putting that aside because I know that we are moving up into the middle. I know we've got some park passes coming up. This is a new thing that's coming into the NT where you're going to have to buy park passes, national park passes, heading up to Kakadu and all those sorts of things. Uluru, they all have entry fees. So we've got a little bit of a sinking fund happening there for those. So $100 aside, and that's just sitting in there. I didn't spend any of that. Car maintenance sinking fund, I spoke about that earlier. Now we did get our van serviced this month, which cost $363. That came out of our car maintenance sinking fund, and like I said, it runs at a surplus, so that is to cover all of our expenses with our vehicles, so we don't ever have to really worry about that. The other main spending thing all comes under miscellaneous. This is everything else that's left, because otherwise our categories would go on for days. And these are the sorts of things we always put $100 aside for miscellaneous bits and pieces that you just don't know that you're going to need, but you do. So Charlotte saved up. She bought a new phone with her own money that she'd been saving since Christmas. And we bought the phone cables for her phone case and a few other things. We also took the car through the car wash. We went to Repco and AutoPro and bought a few bits and pieces just to have on hand, a fuel filter, tyre pins, those sorts of bits and pieces, face washers from Big W. We went to the tackle shop. All of that sort of stuff comes in under miscellaneous. Now this time round it actually ended up costing us $158.50, so we went over in this category here as well. But this was our big expenses here. So here with all of this spending, we are slightly over our budget, but this is where things really got expensive for us. And so basically we did some mods to the caravan, and we had to replace the battery in the car, our second battery that runs our fridge, and we decided to upgrade that to lithium. So we put a side shade sail on the caravan and a clothesline. That ended up costing us $420, but I think that is money well spent. That side shade sail is going to keep the other side of our van a lot cooler, particularly heading up into the outback. We're going to be able to have shade on both sides. So this is definitely going to help keep things cooler as we head into the outback and north. Like I said, we upgraded the car second battery to a lithium battery, and we had to replace the battery box that it was in. So that ended up costing us $552, which is actually not too bad. We ended up getting a 100 amp hour lithium battery from Aldi on special, and so far it's working fantastically. We're really happy with that. And we also ended up buying some additional water jerry cans just so we can have an extra 50 litres of water that we can carry with us. This also means we can go and top up the jerry water cans and fill the van up with 50 litres of water and not have to move the van. We ended up deciding to go with water grade safe jerry cans that did end up costing us $80 for the two, but we're quite happy with those. So these modifications here ended up costing us $1,052, but I think they are going to be worthwhile upgrades and additions to our setup. So that is what it is. And it's also probably fairly important to point out that those modifications that we've just done, the money for that actually came out of our savings. So in addition to our monthly budget that we run, we do have savings, and we do have an emergency fund in case we ever encounter a situation that is unexpected and needs immediate attention, and perhaps we maybe don't have enough available cash. I mean, we don't have a credit card or any of those sorts of things, but we do have an emergency fund which we keep separate, and we also do have savings that we try to put away whenever we can so that we can do future upgrades and modifications to our car and our caravan. So that is on top of our monthly budget, which we try to keep to about $3,000 a month. All right, so that is March. Let's jump in and take a quick look at April. It's pretty much exactly the same. We're still allocating $700 for groceries. We have $750 for fuel, $400 for accommodation. Our utilities, that's different. That's up to $80 a month, and we'll see how that goes. Phones, $120. Medical, $50 going into that sinking fund. Gifts and special occasions, also $50, also going into a sinking fund. Clothing, $50, also going into a sinking fund. The laundromat, this time around, I also know that I will be using the laundromats a little bit more, so I'm going to allocate $50 for laundromat for this month, just having a look at where we're going to camp and our access to power and water. Family fun, $100. Eating out, we're only going to allocate $60. We do have to sort of make room for these allocations up here that are slightly higher, $80 and $50 for the laundromat need to come out of somewhere. So for this month, we're not going to allocate anything for alcohol. Like I said, last month was a big month, so we're going to have dry April, and I think that's going to work quite well. Activities, we will continue to put $100 into that sinking fund and $350 aside for our car maintenance, and our miscellaneous is going to be $120. That brings us in just under $3,000, and we'll see how we go for the month of April. Now, one of the things I will point out for April that's going to be in our favor is that we do have accommodation that is already booked and paid for. That's definitely going to help. And then we should end up with some money left over here in this accommodation allocation that we can save for future months, particularly heading up through the middle and into the Northern Territory. All right, so just quickly, some other things that are probably important to know. These are pretty much the only expenses that we have going on. Some of them are sinking funds, so they take care of those annual expenses. But it is important, I think, to point out that we own our car and our caravan outright. We do not have any ongoing loan repayments, credit cards. We don't have a mortgage or any of those expenses back home that are not related to traveling. Basically, we can travel on a low budget because the only thing that we need to worry about week to week are our week to week expenses. That would be fuel, food, accommodation, gas, and pretty much everything else. Look, realistically, we could cut back on a lot of those other categories should we need to actually save some money and rein in our budget a little bit. But definitely having no ongoing loan repayments or anything like that makes a huge difference for us, because if we need to save some cash, we can slow down, we can free camp. We aren't on a time frame to try and get all of this done in 12 months or anything like that. That definitely makes traveling around Australia a lot more budget friendly because we are able to do it at our own pace. All right, so I think that pretty much covers everything that is in our budget. If you do have any questions, please leave them down below and I will do my best to answer as many of those questions as I can. And if not, I will touch on those in a future budget breakdown video so I can go over all of that sort of stuff that you guys have questions about when it comes to traveling around Australia full-time on a budget. Well, I hope you guys are having a fantastic week. I hope you guys are setting yourself up for a fantastic April. We are pretty excited about leaving the coast. We're going to start making our way up through the middle. We're going to hit the outback. Lots of adventures coming our way. We are super, super excited about what we have planned over the next couple of months, and I can't wait to tell you guys all about it and show you where we go. So of course, if you would like to see what we get up to, don't forget to hit that little subscribe button down below. It is the best way to stay up to date with all the things that are happening at our place. And if you enjoyed today's video, if you could please give it a thumbs up. I really do appreciate that. It lets me know the kind of content you guys are enjoying and what you would like to see more of. Well, with all of that being said, I hope you guys are having a fantastic week, and I do hope to catch you in the next video. Until then, take care, my friends. Bye.